There's a fish, guys. That's better. Dude, one of the big bass just tried to grab the lure from his mouth.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Cross Country Bank Angler. Today I've got another BFS bait finesse system focused video for you today. If you don't know what bait finesse system is, basically it's specialized gear that I think originated in Japan, and basically it's ultralight and light bait casting setups. So ultralight and light power casting rods with specially modified bait casting reels with ultralight spools and sometimes modified bearings and brakes, which allow those reels to cast much lighter lures than a normal bait casting reel would be able to. If you've been keeping up with the channel for a while, you know that this has been something that I've been experimenting with this year, and I've really enjoyed it. It's become kind of the most enjoyable equipment for me to use a lot of the time, especially when you're fishing little ponds or wading in small rivers or creeks. It's something I really enjoy, and it's becoming more popular. And the focus of today's video is I'm going to be testing out a new BFS reel today that I'm gonna sort of touch on here for a little while, show you, and yeah, then we're gonna take out that new reel and try to see if we can catch some fish on it. The focus of today's video is gonna be on this right here. This is a new round profile bait casting reel, BFS reel, that I am excited to start fishing with. So something I didn't mention here, or I haven't mentioned before, haven't talked about before on the channel, is that when I actually first got into BFS, I really wanted to try a round profile reel. I think it just, they're popular in the Japanese and Chinese markets, especially if you're into BFS, you've probably heard of the Shimano Calcutta Conquest BFS. That's probably like the king of the round BFS reels in the world right now. That's one of the highest end BFS reels you can buy. Top of the line performance, really an enthusiast reel. But that's out of my price range. I don't want to spend $400, $500, $600 on a reel. So actually the first BFS reel I ever picked up was this thing right here. It's called the DKS50. It's a Chinese reel, and I'm not going to get too far into it because basically it was junk. So that's what led me to this reel right here. This is the Cast King Zephyr, and this is kind of the reel that I've been using basically throughout this year. This is really the first sort of serious, decent performing BFS reel that I own, and I've really been pleased with it. It can cast down to like 1/16 of an ounce or so. It gets the job done. It's not fancy. It's not the top performer for BFS. I will do a more in-depth review of this reel later this year. But let's get back to the subject at hand. I'm going to leave this out for comparison's sake. So this reel here, this is the iFishband Tender Shoot. This reel came out over the summer. That's when it was first released, so pretty much a brand new product here. And when I saw it, I was pretty intrigued because this was basically kind of not matching, but sort of approaching the aesthetic appeal of the Shimano Calcutta, but it was for a much lower price. This iFishband Tender Shoot will run you about $140. Still not like super cheap, but well within my budget for sort of a specialty fishing reel like this. So let's get into this reel a little bit. This reel has a aluminum frame and side plates. It weighs 210 grams. That's about 7.4 ounces. That's kind of the an average weight for a bait casting reel in general, but actually a bit on the heavy side for a BFS reel. But that's part of the appeal, I think, of these round reels, is that they're built kind of very heavily and sturdily. You know, this the Zephyr here weighs, I think, less than 6 ounces, like 5.6 ounces maybe, something like that. Very light. Nice strength of this reel, I think, is the low weight. But yeah, this, if you're a round reel guy, you know, that's something you kind of are giving up, having that ultra light weight to your reel. I like the finish on this reel. It's like a blued kind of chrome, almost like a gunmetal color. I think that's kind of nice. It's sort of unique. The handles here, I think the bearing count on this reel is 11 bearings total. I don't know if there are any in these handles. I know there was a little bit of controversy. I think some people got reels that have bearings in the handles and some don't, due to some sort of manufacturing error. I don't think mine has them. Aluminum handle here as well. You can see 8:0 to 1 gear ratio, so this is a pretty fast reel as well. That's a common trend for BFS to have a high gear ratio. You know, a lot of the sort of typical BFS techniques are, you know, fast, you know, lots of casting and retrieving, you know, fast working of baits. So that's definitely something that most BFS anglers are looking for. I personally am not like that huge on having an ultra fast reel, but I'd rather have a reel that's on the faster side than a reel that's on the slower side. I feel like it's easier to slow down a little bit than it is to really have to wind really hard to speed up. I like the handle knobs on this. These are kind of like Daiwa or Shimano style knobs, I would say. Nice kind of rubbery texture to them. These are they're thin knobs as well. You can see they're nice and flat, small, finesse knobs. That's something that the Zephyr definitely does not have. You know, this handle and the knobs, these are really not, you know, pretty much similar to knobs you get on a kind of a typical bait casting reel, not necessarily a BFS reel. Nothing very finesse about these. Let's see, other things to note here. This reel has a magnetic brake system, but you might be wondering where the brake system is, but it's actually this whole side piece here. And this is a little bit weird to me. I don't actually like this design particularly. I mean, I think it's not very user-friendly. It's kind of, I mean, you can adjust it, but it takes a little more effort to adjust than just like a basic, you know, the standard dial for a magnetic brake. And there's no indicators here, you know, no numbers or anything, so we're telling you, you know, what direction is strengthening the magnet and what's weakening it, you know, how much brake force are you using. What I'm pretty sure I've determined here is that this is the max position and this is the min position. But kind of not user-friendly, not intuitive, not as easy to adjust, not as precise. So I think this is a bit of a downside for the reel to me. And I'm pretty sure this round piece here is made of graphite. But let's see here. So this line guide, let's take a look at that. It's a kind of a silver chunky looking line guide, contrasts with that blued finish kind of nicely here. And if you look in there, you can kind of see it is a bit of a funnel shape to it. That's a pretty popular trend now in BFS reels, or really in bait casting reels in general, to have that kind of funnel line guide. Supposedly that improves the casting performance a little bit. You can hear the clicking drag there. Clicking spool tension adjustment. So yeah, the drag star clicks, but also the drag itself clicks as well. So that's kind of nice. That's something I kind of miss from spinning reels, is having that clicking drag. It just gives you some feedback, let you know that your drag is working. And it's a little more exciting, you know, when you hook a big fish and you hear that drag going. So I'm looking forward to, yeah, you know, hooking into a nice fish and hearing that drag go. So the other things here, the thumb bar seems to be made of plastic. You can see it's a pretty high positioned thumb bar, which I kind of like. I think it's easier to kind of reach it when you're getting ready for your next cast, when it's sort of positioned high like that. It is a little bit mushy here. You can see it's got a little bit of give, but still, that's a pretty minor complaint. I mean, it doesn't matter that much to me, as long as it is reliable in its function. And you know, once you press it down a little more, it snaps pretty nice and crisp. But yeah, a little bit of mush there if you're really picky about that. Something to note. The retrieve right now feels pretty darn smooth. Looking forward to seeing, you know, feeling how it actually, you know, retrieves when there's line and a lure, you know, tied on. I feel like that really is a little different from just winding it the way it is now without any line. So what about the spool here? Let's take a look at this spool. The way you take off this side plate here is this little nut. You just turn it to the left, and you see there's these two padlocks here, and you have this hash mark. So right now we're in the lock position. You just turn that up to the unlock position, and it comes out very easily. And here's the spool, and man, this spool is very lightweight. You see there's no perforations, no porting in the spool, but it is super, super light, guys. You can see there's just a very thin little matrix of spars there inside of it. I think the spool weight is 5.2 or 5.3 grams, something like that. So that's a very light spool. The Zephyr spool, I think, weighs 9 grams, 8 grams. I'll look that up and kind of confirm that. But this spool is definitely lighter than the Zephyr spool. And here's the brakes, the braking system. It's a static magnetic brake. So this means that there's no auto adjusting mechanism here for these brakes. You know, there are some higher end BFS reels where the brake force will adjust a little bit. You know, you can set the brake force, but in the cast, some of these systems can adjust a little bit on the fly, but this one does not do that. This is just a standard brake. And you can see how when you adjust the battery of magnets here gets a little closer or further away from the spool. So that's kind of how I figured out what the max and minimum setting was. So we're going to leave that on max for right now. 8 magnets in here. This actually looks very similar to the Zephyr brake system. So once again, we're looking for that hash mark. Line it up with that padlock and then get it down to the locked padlock. And then just push this in and turn it to the right. I like this system for getting the side plate off. I think that's well done, well designed. So yeah, you know, I think this thing looks pretty cool. I'm excited to give it a shot here. I'm gonna spool this thing up, get some line on it. We're gonna be using 7-pound monofilament for this reel, just like we have been doing with the Zephyr. And yeah, let's see if this thing can catch a few fish.
Alright people, I'm coming down to the water here. I see lots of fish sitting in the shallows, mostly bluegill, I think. This is the lake that I fished back in the spring with BFS and ultralight and did pretty good. So I figured why not take this out for its first test run here. The old tender shoot. And the Sagama, the Lure Star Sagama. In the maximum position right now, the strongest position. That's how we're going to start off here. Then as we get comfortable with the reel, we'll start backing off those brakes. There are a lot of bluegill out here. This is kind of weird. Suspended near the surface. The lure I'm going to start off with here should be a pretty easy one to cast. This is that Thomas Whirlfish. I've used it in a few videos this year, kind of as an alternative to a spinner, an inline spinner, and it's done really well. I don't hear anyone talk about it, but it's an interesting little lure, and it definitely works. So last time I was here, it worked. Going to see if we can get a few fish on it today. Really, that's just kind of the goal here, just to test out the feel of this combo and try to catch a few fish with it and just see how it feels. So we just cast into the big crowd of bluegill here. Definitely could feel the brakes working. We had some chase the lure and kind of peck at it, but they didn't get hooked up. I'm going to back off a couple of clicks on the brakes. I think there's 20 positions, 20 clicks on this brake, which is a little bit low, but still plenty of adjustment. Back off a couple more. 1, 2, 3, 4 clicks right there. Oh yeah, we got some good distance on that cast. I'm gonna let it sink down. All right, guys. Just downsized big time. We're really putting this setup to the test now. Got this tiny little black and yellow grub on a jig head here, 1/16 of an ounce. Let's see if we can cast it. Finally got one, guys. And he still popped off. I'm basically sight fishing right now. There were 3 bass looking at it. This was the smallest one, and he finally sucked it in. It seems like they're definitely interested in like a jig, something hopping along the bottom, especially for the bass. So there's our first fish, finally. Get this guy. I'm gonna release him far away from where the active fish were. First fish of the day, first fish on the new setup. Ah, what the heck? These bass keep grabbing the tail, guys. I mean, come on. Just commit to it, quit messing around. They're hitting it as it drops. There we go, guys. Finally got another fish, and it's a decent bass. I mean, he's not huge, but for this pond, I'll certainly take him. Maybe an 11-inch fish, 10-inch fish. I decided to kind of be a little more focused on the bass because they seem to be a little more active than the bluegill right now. This fish is cold too. I think he was near the bottom. I've had a few cold nights. It's warmed up a little bit the last couple days. Today feels pretty nice. Whew, yeah, this is a cold fish, guys. Water temps have definitely gone down.
What was it?
Yeah, it was a little bass.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Not many people catch anything.
Yeah, they've been tricky.
Yeah.
All right, so maybe we figured out something that'll trick these fish. You know, we may try to go to like a Ned rig or a wacky rig as well. It seems like they want something falling, something sinking. Got one. All right, guys. Another solid bass. We were really having to go slow to get these fish to hit. I mean, he just picked it up off the bottom, basically right in front of me. Glad we have those Z-Man Slim Swims in the box. I tell you what, it's a good little finesse lure when they're in a kind of a tricky mood like this. There's another bass. He's similar to the last one, guys, about 10 to 11 inches. Try this for a few more minutes, see if we can catch a couple more bass on it. Then we'll try something maybe a little bigger, because I know there are bigger bass in here. We've seen them today. See you, buddy. Appreciate you. Hello.
Did you have any luck?
I've caught a few bass.
You did?
Mm-hmm. Nothing big, but they're biting a little bit.
They're in there.
They're definitely in there.
I'm gonna practice. I fly fish. What? Do you bait?
Yeah, this is bait casting.
Okay.
Yeah, I've tried a little bit of fly fishing.
It's not so easy.
Yeah,
I
it's.
had a fly rod in my hand for months, and I'm going on a trip.
Oh, well, that's exciting.
But I can't. I have to practice. Did you fly?
Just a couple of times.
Um,
Have you?
hiking.
Hmm.
Do you mind hiking along the shoreline?
Not at all.
Well, there's a whole bunch of guys in our, they're all working in, there's a ton of guys that work in our covenant woods, and they come down here early in the morning and fish.
Oh, yeah.
Go back for lunch. And one day, I was here, and they said a honey hole was down there around that tree that's almost over.
The one hanging over the water?
Yeah,
Oh.
I would go down there. I don't have my hiking stick, but anyway,
Okay.
they told me you don't want to hike in there.
Yeah, I might check it out before I leave. Here's a fish, guys. Okay, wow. Now there's a surprise. One of these bluegill actually decided to eat. I've been staring at these fish all day and they've been very, very passive, but this one was not. He went for the whole Z-Man Slim Swims, guys. Hold on, buddy. Yeah, that whole swim bait in down his throat, guys. It's about a 5-6 inch fish. It's a 6-inch bluegill, I think. Not too bad. Thank you, fish. It's been a while, guys. This lake has been tough. It's our 4th fish of the day. It's a pretty bluegill, though. Thank you, buddy. Almost crossed the pond with that cast, guys. This thing can... We've got it just tuned perfectly right now. We can really bomb some casts without really worrying about a backlash. Just can't hurl it too hard. There's a fish, guys. That's better. That's better. That might have been a pickerel. It's big. Hope he doesn't break us off. Ooh. Oh yeah, it's a big pickerel. All 3 of the big bass followed him in too. 4 big bass. Wow. Guys, one of them is huge. God, this guy is strong. Stop. Dude, one of the big bass just tried to grab the lure from his mouth. Oh yeah, guys. Now that was the fight. That was the fight we're looking for on this setup, guys. Look at that pickerel. That's a good one, guys. Ah, yes. Wow. What a fish. Check him out, guys. That's a good fish. Close to 20. Close to 20. There we go, guys. Get another look at him. Beautiful chain pickerel. Whew, on that swim bait. I did not know there were pickerel like this in here. I'm gonna let him go. He's gonna need some time to recover. We had to get some pictures, of course, of a fish of this caliber. Appreciate you, bud. There he goes. Oh, wow. Whew, that is a nice fish, guys. Oh, you were right about fishing over there.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I caught probably like a 20-inch pickerel over there.
Did you? Oh, I'm
Yeah.
so glad.
Yeah, you should try to make it down there sometime.
Okay.
Hello there, little one. What are you doing out here? Wandering the streets. Look at that little guy. All right, people. So here we are. Gonna wrap things up here. The BFS tender shoot, the iFishband tender shoot round profile BFS reel. And you know, this pond, it was a little tricky today, but I think we were really able to put this new setup through its paces here. You know, we missed a few fish there early on. Like I said before, for some reason for me, I usually, when I'm getting used to a new rod especially, I tend to lose the first couple of fish that I hook up with on it. I don't know why. I just have to get a feel for it, I guess. But overall, I'm really pleased with the performance of this reel. The feel of it, you know, it feels good in hand. You know, even though it's a round reel, it's still really comfortable to palm. It's not like a giant, you know, super impractical or anything. It's got a nice lightweight spool on it. Took a little bit of getting used to that lightweight spool. You really just want to be very fluid with your cast. You don't need to put much force behind it at all. Just let that rod do the work. But we learned some things about this lake for sure, guys. We saw some huge bass in here.
I'm talking 3 to 6 pounds, possibly even some 7 or 8 pounders in here. They were schooled up, kind of not very actively feeding. You know, the fish really were not that active today, but just seeing those fish gives me some good information about this pond. I encourage you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We have weekly fishing videos, bank fishing videos at Cross Country Bank Angler. You know, BFS fishing like this, you know, gear first impressions and reviews, lure fishing, ultralight fishing, bass fishing, you know, all sorts of different techniques out here. You know, anything like that, you know, creek fishing, wading. If that's your style of fishing, then you should subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and I hope to see you next time.